In my culture, you don't get into music, it's there from the get-go. Kids are doing it, mum's doing it, grandparents are doing it. So it's just there, man. I guess my point of entry into style-driven subculture would have been the skinhead movement, which started around '68, and I'm talking about the fashion version, not the fascist version. And their soundtrack was the music of Trojan Records, which was started in '68, the same year that Enoch Powell made his Rivers of Blood speech. And while the politicians are freaking out the old folk, Trojan Records was capturing the imagination of the youth, black and white, on the streets and on the dance floor.
You know, the thing is, when people ask me, how did you get into music? I just say music was born in me. You could say people from the Caribbean, people from Africa, music or rhythm is in us. Yeah, we're born with it. You know, going to church, I was in a choir, I was in a band. My cousin had a little sound system, and this is like in the 70s. I was a young man sitting down and he used to be always playing me this music, and at the time, I wasn't really saying I was into reggae. I was more into pop music as a young child. But then one day he played me one record, CB200. That was about 1975, and that was it. That was me.
It's kind of like, I really like to dance, and so that is your ultimate gateway, isn't it? You got to need music, really. And I also like lyrics as well, so I'm a listener as well, you know. I really I find I go quite deep into my lyrics and stuff, so obviously a band like The Clash is, you know, lyric heavy on the beat. When I saw them live, it was like, kind of like it hit me as, wow, I really like this band live. I mean, it was Montreal 1982, and it's the first time I'd seen a band that really meant something so strongly. Seeing The Clash was like a real personal hit. It was a real sort of like, I felt that was for me, and I just had such a great dance. It was good. I was just kicking a lot of people. I just wanted room.
I mean, I was fortunate to be born in the late 60s, so my brother, who's 2 years older than me, was listening to music at a time when music in the UK was just, I thought, going, you know, looking back, was going through an absolute explosion in terms of innovation and creativity, punk, two-tone, and he bought an album in 1979, which was London Calling by The Clash. And for me, it was like, just opened up a whole series of genres of music. One album just took me into everything from punk to reggae to rock to kind of rhythm and blues. It was, that was really the sort of tipping point for me.
Genres, for the want of a better phrase, that I fell into was going to local youth clubs, and they had this strange thing called Motown, which was pretty exciting, and people danced. And so I guess dance music was the thing that I was most attracted to, first of all. And Motown, Northern Soul was very big as a sort of teenager in the places I lived. So yeah, that was very much something that I was into.
I kind of ended up getting into sort of electro when I was like 10 or 11, which is mid-80s basically. It was kind of the thing to do in the suburbs, I guess. A bit of breakdancing and backspinning to Tour de France by Kraftwerk. I'd sort of gone from electro, and then sort of hip-hop sort of blew up when I was at school, like NWA and Public Enemy and all of that, and I used to buy everything on cassette. There was a point when hip-hop crossed into house, like with Jungle Brothers, I'll House You and things like that. One day my friend came home with this album, my best mate Mark, he's like, listen to this, and we put that on, and I think pretty much 2 days later I gave all my cassettes, my hip-hop albums, to my girlfriend's little brother, and then that was it, really. I deeply regretted that. But, so, you know, it was just like, I don't need these anymore.
I grew up in a house of music, so lots of people in my family play instruments. When I was young, I had a radio and used to tape, I mean, it's the same story as everyone. I used to tape the top 40 and listen to it, and then I discovered pirate radio, and then I got really into music. And yeah, I loved hip hop and electro. And then when the first wave of kind of Tribe Called Quest and Jungle Brothers and De La Soul and Public Enemy came out, and lots of my friends were into indie at the time, and I just kind of wrote the whole thing off and was sort of all about hip hop from then on.
From childhood, you know, Pops, you know, had the sound system, and from childhood we used to see him bringing boxes in and out of the house, amplifiers and turntables and whatnot, and that's how we really get inspired from, you know, from Treasure Isle, Blue Beat, you know, Trojan, all these type of things was going on at the time. Your bedroom's upstairs, Pops is downstairs, and you're just doing it constantly. So it's a good schooling. Doing it as your hobby, and you're working at the same time. So you're doing your 9 to 5, you're doing your DJing and sound system thing over the weekends. It just started to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Until, you know, as we go bigger, the boxes started getting bigger. Until, you see, and that's when I started building boxes. Them days I built most of Channel 1's boxes.
Every discerning skinhead had this under his arm. It was like a calling card, you know, and it was full of hits because Trojan was smart. They knew that, you know, for the working class kid, you know, if they were going to spend their money on vinyl, it had to be worth it. So they made this an all-killer, no-filler compilation of proven hits that had already united the youth, black and white, on the dance floor. Respect Trojan.